Section 2, marked by dust, the postal ghosts of independence. As the ink dried on declarations and constitutions, and the world shifted from empires to fragile republics, the post roads of yesterday began to disappear, not with a crash, but with a quiet shuffling into obscurity. Once pulsing with hoofbeats, wheels, and whispered news, these routes became overgrown with scrub and silence. The newly drawn borders across former colonies and splintered nations left many of these trails straddling contested terrain. Postal stations once manned by loyal couriers were now abandoned or repurposed by new regimes. A former Spanish outpost in the high Andes became a Bolivian customs shack. A British mail depot in West Africa was overtaken by brush and rumors of spirits. The ghosts of independence were not just metaphorical. Locals whispered of spectral riders galloping across the savannah, of fading footprints in desert sands, of messages still being delivered in the dead of night by no one living. In Chile, a mountain village still hoists a flag every Tuesday, awaiting a postal rider who hasn't arrived in over 80 years. The past clings to these places like dust. Postmarks stamped in long-defunct currencies, letters sealed with vanished coats of arms, and milestones etched in forgotten languages remain as fragile testaments to what was. But memory, too, is a border, shifting, unreliable, and subject to the same erosion that reclaims every road. In the end, what remains is not just infrastructure, but the human yearning to connect across distance, even when the world has changed so much that the map no longer agrees. The moment revolutions succeed, something subtle but profound begins to unravel, the threads that once held the mundane together, the postal schedules, the stamps, the riders, start to fray. While generals marched and borders were redrawn in ink and blood, no one thought to ask what would become of the postmaster in a frontier village, or the rider who knew every ravine by heart, or the single wooden box nailed to a tamarind tree where news once arrived from faraway capitals. The old postal routes, once the lifeblood of empires, became ghosts in the dust. In some places, they were erased deliberately, symbols of colonial rule to be dismantled in favor of proud new bureaucracies. In others, they simply faded from disuse. New governments with fragile budgets and bigger problems left them to rot, outposts untended, roads left to flood, and way stations reclaimed by wind, jungle, or sand. What took their place was something stranger. A liminal world of half-memories and spectral infrastructure. In what is now Mali, elders recall a French postal rider who was said to continue his deliveries long after the colony declared independence. His horse was never seen, only the hoofprints in the morning sand. In Guatemala, a church was built over the ruins of a way station, but on certain humid evenings, villagers claimed to hear the low whistle of a mail guard calling out coded signals into the mist. Modern borders made a mockery of these ancient trails. A path that once carried a message from Manila to Vigan in 5 days now crosses 3 checkpoints, 2 customs offices, and an unofficial militia outpost. A letter that once rode from Cape Town to the Congo in the pouch of a single determined courier would now require passports, bribes, and digital signatures, and still might never arrive. Yet despite these obstacles, the need to communicate endured. And so the routes remained, not in practice, but in myth. In Bolivia, families speak of the Correo de los Muertos, the mail of the dead, carried by ancestors who still fulfill uncompleted deliveries. In India, stories circulate of train whistles heard at midnight, long after the last colonial postal train was decommissioned. Old envelopes have turned up with fresh postmarks and no explanation. These stories speak to something more than nostalgia. They are reminders that communication is never just about logistics, it is about trust. It is about believing that a message can pass through danger, wilderness, and time itself, and still arrive. The disappearance of the old posts didn't just mark the end of a logistical network, it marked the slow, collective forgetting of a shared geography. But not everything was lost. In dusty archives and rural memory, fragments survive. A rusted mail horn hanging in a pub in Guyana. A weather-worn postal milestone leaning against a wall in Ghana, now used as a seat by schoolchildren. A pouch of letters found sealed in wax, delivered a century too late to an address that no longer The ghosts don't yield easily. Each recovered route seems to come with shadows, stories of betrayal, censorship, exile. A well-worn trail might link not only villages, but prisons and palaces. The mail it once carried was not always. Section 4, The Last Postrider. He was known only as Tomas. In the borderlands where Slovakia fades into mist and memory, there are still those who remember a man with leather boots, a satchel weathered to velvet, and a dog-eared notebook filled with names no one speaks anymore. They say he rode even after the rail lines came, even after the state decreed the trail closed. He had no pension, no master, no official rank, only his horse, a gray thing named Vera, and a promise made long ago to a man who had died before the ink could dry. Tomas's route traced the bones of an empire. From a shuttered way station in Lavoka, across the Tatras, through pine-dark valleys where wolves once walked beside messengers, to a checkpoint that had, by then, been forgotten by everyone but him. He didn't carry stamps. He didn't carry money. What he delivered were remnants, letters from long-dead relatives found behind drawers, packages without return addresses, pages of poems never mailed. It was said he never read a word of them, only felt the weight of each one and knew where it needed to go. Children ran after him. Old women wept when they saw him. Bureaucrats ignored him, which may have been a kind of grace. And slowly, the world forgot he existed. Until one winter, he didn't arrive. Vera was found grazing alone near an abandoned milepost. In her saddlebag was a small wooden box, wrapped in oilskin, containing 7 letters, each addressed in the same shaky hand. They bore dates ranging from 1897 to 1942. No stamps. Just names, most of them carved in stone now. Word of the discovery spread, first through villages, then to the capital, and finally across embassies and radio stations. Historians argued over his reality. Was he a myth stitched together from scraps of older writers? A folktale made modern? Or had he, as some suggested, stepped sideways in time, out of the archival margins and into the living world, briefly, to finish what history had interrupted? But in the village of Spisk Podrity, they built him a marker. Not a statue. Just a post, a splintered wooden beam with a rusted tin horn nailed near the top, and one word etched into the grain beneath. Still in transit. And there, travelers leave letters. Hundreds now, left in envelopes, in plastic bags, under stones. Some are addressed. Most are not. Some are prayers. Some are stories. One is simply a single sentence. If you read this, please remember we were here. In a way, Tomas never disappeared. He became a form of remembrance. The last postrider not because of chronology, but because of purpose. He rode not for government or gold, but for the sanctity of being heard. He rode because someone, somewhere, might still be waiting. And perhaps, in that echo, we all are. There are roads that don't end in destinations, only in silence. There are letters that don't arrive at doors, only at graves. There are voices that never echo back, but still we send them out. From the first knotted cord passed from hand to hand, to the wax-sealed missives galloping through imperial frontiers, the act of delivering a message has always been an act of faith. A person tears a piece of themselves into language, wraps it in paper or prayer, and sends it into the unknown. Across mountains, borders, wars, betrayals. Across time. Across forgetting. And somewhere along the way, sometimes days, sometimes centuries, that message either arrives or disappears. But the road remembers. The trail remembers. Even now, in an age where everything travels faster than thought and vanishes just as quickly, there are those who walk. Not because it's efficient. Not because it's necessary. But because the trail, however faint, still whispers something sacred. A shepherd in southern Jordan walks his flock along the Nabatean spice roads, humming a song he claims his grandfather heard from a Turkish courier. A woman in northern Mongolia rides a chestnut horse to deliver handmade letters to isolated Gur camps, letters written by children in Ulaanbaatar who have never seen stars without neon. In the highlands of Peru, a boy places stones in a row each morning to mark a path where no one walks anymore, because his grandmother told him that's where her grandfather waited for the mail. This is not nostalgia. This is ritual. This is refusal, to let go of the idea that distance can't be bridged by care. Because in every age, there is forgetting. Empires collapse, maps lie, and languages shift until they become strangers to the mouths that once spoke them. Names are lost to censuses, erased from records, or smudged by history's indifference. But the message, if it was sent with intention, sometimes survives, not in its words, perhaps, but in its echo. In the act of reaching. And there is power in that. There is power in unfinished things. In a letter never opened. In a road half buried. In the act of writing to someone you cannot reach, because some part of you believes, still, they might receive it. This is the faith of the last postwriters. They understood something we are only now beginning to remember, that the world is stitched not by borders, but by messages in motion. That we belong to one another not because of law or language, but because of the fragile, miraculous trust that someone will hear us. Even now, people build shrines on old routes. They mark them with stones, with paper cranes, with folded notes in glass bottles. Some leave messages no one will read, I'm sorry. We survived. Is anyone still out there? And in return, sometimes, the trail answers. A breeze that lifts the edge of a letter at just the right time. A traveler who finds what they weren't looking for. An old postal badge dug from the mud, its emblem worn but unmistakable. Prue. A full day of honey, side by side with the Hadzabe. 1. First light, 5:30 a.m., waking to wing beats. Dawn in the Lake Iasi basin is violet blue and cold. The Hadzabe fires have burned low during the night, and all that remains are faint red coals in shallow ash pits. Long before the sun edges over the acacia tops, you hear the first click-toned whistles the bushmen trade with a feathered ally, the greater honey guide, indicator. Chick chick chee chee chee. That teasing chatter cuts through the hush and every hunter's head lifts. The bird is announcing it has found a hive, now it wants to hire humans to break it open. 2. The pact with a bird, 6:15 a.m., setting off. No written contract is older than this pact. The Hadzabe give the honey guide the wax and leftover comb, the bird gives the tribe calories they cannot reach without rope ladders or axes. A quick breakfast of baobab fruit pulp and a swig of smoky water from a goatskin bag, and the party of 4 men, 2 boys, and a grandmother, the clan historian, slips into the thorn scrub barefoot. Gear, a single stone-headed axe, 3 sinew-backed bows, a tinder pouch of dried grass, and little else. Navigation, entirely by ear. When the honey guide flits ahead it pauses on a branch, flutters its wings, and calls until the men catch up. If the humans dawdle, it sulks and disappears. 3. Trail craft, 7:30 a.m., reading invisible ink. While following the bird you learn to read an alphabet most outsiders never notice. Sign what it means. A fresh scratch spiraling a baobab trunk honey badger tried that hive last night, bees still angry. A damp ash ring at a tree's base another Hadzabe clan harvested here 3 days ago. A faint hum at ankle height wild apathy scouting new nest sites. The hunt is a moving classroom, children are quizzed in real time. Miss a clue and an uncle taps your shoulder, repeats the click-click for look again. 4. First harvest, 9:45 a.m., bees, smoke and stings. The honey guide finally circles a weather-cracked baobab. The hive entrance is a slit 8 up. Fire, a boy twirls a hardwood drill in a soft baobab board, within 2 minutes a coal is tipped into dry fibrous bark. Smoke, bundled grass is lifted like a torch as a climber walks, the trunk using V-notches cut by ancestors decades earlier. Extraction, With the axe he pries off a honey-heavy plate of comb. Bees pour out like sparks. Stings are inevitable. The climber rubs ash onto welts but never curses. The Hadzabe tell children that angry words chase away the honey guide. On the ground everyone tears fist-sized gobs of comb, chewing wax, larvae, pollen, and sun-warmed honey in one sweet, protein-packed mouthful. A palmful is left on a branch for the bird. It darts down the instant the group steps back. 5. Midday Interlude, 12:30 p.m. Shade, story and repair. Under a rock overhang the hunters nap. The grandmother plaits a bowstring of giraffe sinew while telling a myth. Long ago the bee fell in low.
Hadzabe tribe women, silent hunters and family providers. In the arid woodlands of northern Tanzania, the Hadzabe people live as one of the last true hunter-gatherer societies. While the men are known for their long, strategic hunts of large game using poison-tipped arrows, the women of the Hadzabe tribe also play a crucial and active role in gathering and hunting, often overlooked but vital to their community's survival. Unlike the men, who may venture far for days to chase animals like baboons, antelope, or even small wildcats, Hadzabe women tend to stay closer to camp, engaging in shorter, but highly effective hunting and foraging expeditions. Their tools are simpler: digging sticks, small bows, and deep ancestral knowledge of the land. But their results are powerful. Their hunting technique. Tracking small game, Hadzabe women are highly skilled at spotting subtle animal tracks and disturbances in the underbrush. They often hunt small mammals like hares, squirrels, birds, or even baboons using short-range bows and arrows. Cooperative movement, they hunt in small, cooperative groups. Communication is mostly silent, relying on hand signals and eye contact, which is essential for moving through the dense brush without alerting prey. Setting traps, in some cases, they'll set up basic snares or deadfall traps near watering holes or animal paths, returning later to check if anything has been caught. Foraging while hunting, women often combine hunting with foraging, collecting edible roots, berries, baobab fruit, tubers, and wild honey along the way. This multitasking approach ensures they return with something even if the hunt is unsuccessful. Once they return to the camp, there is a strong emphasis on sharing. All food, whether meat, roots, or fruit, is distributed among the group, especially to children and elders. Meals are often cooked over an open fire with the whole family gathered. You'll see mothers teaching their children how to clean game, prepare it for roasting, and even identify useful plants. The role of women in survival. While the Hadzabe men's hunting is dramatic and more visible, the women's role is constant, dependable, and essential. Day after day, they ensure the family is fed, teaching the younger generation how to survive with wisdom, patience, and deep respect for nature. Their strength lies not just in their ability to hunt, but in their understanding of the land, their resilience, and their deep connection to the rhythms of the natural world. The silent providers, how Hadzabe tribe women hunt and feed their families. In the sun-scorched savannas and thorny woodlands of northern Tanzania, where water is scarce and life depends on the rhythms of the wild, the Hadzabe tribe survives much like their ancestors did thousands of years ago. They are one of the world's last remaining hunter-gatherer societies, and while the image of Hadzabe men chasing antelope with bows and poisoned arrows often captures attention, there's another, equally powerful story that deserves to be told. The story of the Hadzabe women, the silent providers, the patient hunters, the guardians of the hearth. Women in the wild, hunting with knowledge and intuition. Unlike many traditional societies where hunting is solely the domain of men, the Hadzabe women have always played a crucial role in providing food for their families. They are not passive gatherers. They are active hunters, deeply skilled in reading the environment, identifying food sources, and catching small game. Their hunting and foraging expeditions often begin at sunrise, just as the men leave for their long-range hunts. Equipped with digging sticks, small handmade bows and arrows, knives, and baskets woven from natural fibers, the women set out, usually in small groups. They move through the bush with confidence and silence, communicating through subtle gestures and glances, using knowledge passed down through generations of women before them. Their target is not large animals, but small game such as Hares and small antelopes. Guinea fowl and ground birds. Baboons or monkeys, when the opportunity arises. Rodents, squirrels, and lizards. They also have expert knowledge of how to track, trap, or flush out animals hiding in burrows or under shrubs. When necessary, they build simple snares from vines or wire, place them near known animal trails, and check them later in the day. The dual mission, hunting and foraging. What makes the Hadzabe women's role extraordinary is their ability to combine hunting with foraging, a dual mission that ensures that even if meat is scarce, their families won't go hungry. They collect baobab fruit, a rich source of vitamin C and energy. Wild tubers and roots, dug from deep underground using strong wooden sticks. Berries and edible seeds. Honey, often harvested from hollow trees using smoke to drive away bees. The knowledge required to forage successfully is immense. Not only do they know which plants are edible, but they also know when they are in season, how to prepare them, and how to identify medicinal plants that can be used for treating wounds, fevers, or digestive issues. Returning to camp, sharing the harvest. After hours of work under the African sun, the women return to camp, often carrying children on their backs and heavy loads on their heads. What they bring back might be a mix of smoked meat, fresh roots, wild fruits, and small birds, but it's never just food, it's life.
One that modern science is only beginning to understand. Food is rarely hoarded. What is eaten is shared. A monkey taken down in the trees is roasted and consumed together, piece by piece. The idea of eating alone is foreign. The Hadzabe live communally in the truest sense. No one goes hungry so long as food exists within the group. But this rhythm is fragile. As the dry season stretches, the bush thins. Animals grow more cautious. Water sources dry up. Tubers burrow deeper into the earth. Survival requires adaptability, not tools or machines, but knowledge and patience. You must know when to move, where to walk, what to look for. You must understand the seasons not as numbers on a calendar but as shifting patterns in the birds, the color of leaves, the hardness of the soil. Their lifestyle is not simple. It is complex in a way modern convenience has dulled us to. To thrive in this environment, one must remember everything. How to make fire from sticks, how to identify a snake from its track, which branch bends without breaking, which tree bleeds healing sap. Despite the hardships, the Hadzabe laugh often. Their humor is quick and dry. There are jokes about missed shots, about the way someone eats, about a lazy morning. Children play with sticks and stones, they learn to climb before they learn to count. There is music, made with bows and clapping and voice, melodies that repeat across generations, unrecorded but never forgotten. Outsiders often assume such lives are lacking. That the Hadzabe need saving. But those who come with that mindset often leave changed. For in the Hadzabe's world, time is different. Success is measured not in money but in being full, in being alive, in seeing another sunrise. And yet, this balance is under pressure. Farming settlements now push close to their territory. Game animals grow scarce in fenced-in lands. Global warming shifts the reins. Tourism offers both opportunity and risk. Aid brings food, but also plastic. Schools teach Swahili, but the Hadzabe speak Hadzane, a language isolate spoken nowhere else on earth. How long can the rhythms hold? How long can a people survive in harmony with a land that is no longer left alone?
You are standing in the middle of East Africa, in a dry sweep of brush and savanna that seems, at first, entirely empty. But if you look closer, if you listen more carefully, you begin to see and hear the traces of lives still shaped by ancient rhythms. A bird call. The crackle of firewood. The low hum of insects. And then, perhaps, the distant laughter of children chasing lizards through the dust. This is the land of the Hadzabe, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth. Not a romantic survival of the past, not a lost tribe untouched by time, but something quieter, a people who have simply continued, slowly and persistently, while the world shifted around them. To begin this story, we must unlearn the usual pace of history. There are no empires rising or falling here. No monuments, no conquests, no kings. The Hadzabe have left no written records, no architecture of stone or steel. Their story is written instead in plant fibers, in the smoothness of stones, in the blackened ash of cooking fires that have never gone out for thousands of years. The landscape of continuity. Nestled near Lake Eyasi in northern Tanzania, the land of the Hadzabe is one of rolling scrubland, towering baobab trees, and volcanic rock outcroppings that hold the warmth of the sun long into the night. Here, rainfall is irregular. Water must be known by memory. You cannot rely on a well or a pipe. You must know which trees carry water in their trunks, which hidden ravines might hold a trickle after the rains, which signs in the soil hint at buried moisture. The Hadzabe have no crops and no herds. They rely on what the land provides each day, tubers dug from deep underground, berries plucked from thorny bushes, wild honey teased out from hives with smoking torches, and meat from birds, monkeys, and antelope taken with poison-tipped arrows. Their diet is seasonal and dynamic, guided by knowledge passed down through song and story, not scroll or scripture. Even their shelters are temporary, simple windbreaks of branches and thatch, built in hours and abandoned when the food moves on. There are no possessions to carry. The Hadzabe carry knowledge instead, about plants, animals, weather, and human relationships. Language older than time. The Hadzabe language is one of the few remaining click languages in the world. Its soft consonants and rhythmic clicks carry across the dry air like birdsong. Linguists categorize it as an isolate, meaning it is unrelated to surrounding Bantu or Nilotic tongues, suggesting it has ancient roots. In fact, the Hadzabe may be the closest living relatives to the original humans who first walked out of Africa more than 100,000 years ago. Their words do not exist in written form. The knowledge embedded in their language is oral, ephemeral, and yet somehow enduring. How to read the tracks of a porcupine. How to recognize the mood of a baboon troop. How to coax bees into leaving their honey behind. These are not stories written in books. They are repeated in daily practice, murmured around fires, and etched in memory by repetition and necessity.